right, everybody, and I'm going to be doing some video tutorials related to Photoshop and various elements, and I'm going to do kind of a two-parter where I'm going to talk about some of the vector tools. The vector tools are the lower half of your toolbar, and it has the pen on the top, the type tools, the selection tools, and the shape tools. Okay. So first half I want to focus primarily on the pen tool because it's a very complex tool. Now when we're talking vector graphics, if you create a vector graphic, first of all, we can create and design our own vector graphics using the pen tool. And it's what you would expect. It's a pen, so it's for drawing. Now the pen tool is so much more than just simple drawing. If you look on the pen tool here, you've got options across the top, right? So the first one here, the first option we have is watch what happens when I go ahead and create a shape. Now if I just click point to point, what it's doing is it's creating straight lines from one point to the next. The lines they're drawing are called paths. If I get close to the original point, they'll see a little tiny dot next to the pen. And if I click that, it will complete the shape. So in this case, on the layer, it's its own layer. It's a shape layer, okay? And that's a vector graphic. Now, it's one way to do it. You'll note it filled it with the color. Now, if you don't want to have it filled with the color, you can actually select the next part, which is just the paths. Okay, so if we're going to create a shape like this, let me show you a couple other options before we go much further. And I'm going to focus on this next one, which is just the path layer. So I'm going to go ahead and delete that layer. I don't really need that. And something I want to show you about the pen tool is if I click and drag, I get this thing called handles. Now the handles adjust curves on our path. So if I draw this straight up and down, and I draw a really big, long handle, watch what happens the next time I click. You'll see now that there is a curve going out from the other point, coming into the next point. Now if I start dragging, so I never let go of my mouse, I can create another curve. And you can see what happens as I adjust these handles. Now what's cool about this is nothing's permanent. If I let go and I want to adjust it, watch what I can do. I can hold down the Alt key, and when I get next to this, I can actually adjust that handle there. So remember, that's you hold down Alt, and when you hover over that point, you get the handle. Now notice I'm moving this around. I'm not seeing any changes. That's because that is the outgoing curve. So if I click the next point, you will see there's that outgoing curve. So I can change it right here. So you can come up with really complex shapes with corners. Now note the next point I put in, I did not create any handles. So it created a straight line. Okay. If I want to create handles, what I can do is I can hold down the Alt, click on a point, and drag away, and now I've got handles. And I can adjust each one separately. Okay. So you can come up with all kinds of designs as you go, and you can edit it. Also, you've got down below the pen tool on the left, you have direct selection tool, which allows you to actually click the points and move them around. See that? So you can do some things, and you can also adjust the handles with the direct selection tools. That's another point. That was not a handle. So if I want to get that point back, by the way, the path selection I think just allows you to select and move an entire path, whereas direct selection allows you to go point by point. Actually, it's not seeming to do it now. I'm going to get my pen tool back. I'm going to hold down Alt, and now I got it back. And I click on the last point. I've got my shape. Now this is a really ugly shape, not really anything I can do much with. But if I go back to this direct selection tool, I can click on here, and I can now get to those handles. I just select it, click a point, drag handles around, and so then you can adjust that as you go. Okay, so that's just the essence of a pen tool. Other things you should know about the pen tool is that you can convert this into a selection right here. Make selection. We can feather it. We can give it like a 1 pixel or a 10 pixel feather or whatever. That's going to give it a soft edge. Let me show you what that looks like. I'm going to click OK. Notice I have a selection. I'm going to create a new layer, layer 1. I'm going to get my paint bucket, and I'm going to bucket inside. And you will note with a feathered selection, you get a soft edge. Okay, I'm going to undo that. I didn't really want to do that. In fact, I'm going to do another undo. So I'm going to hold down Control, Alt, and Z until I get my shape back. Another thing you could do with the pen tool, I'm going to go ahead and remove that layer. I'm going to create a new layer. I'm going to get my pen tool. And if I click on here, we saw that earlier where it filled it with the color. Let's say you want to make a raster graphic with the pen tool. You can use this tool, which is Fill Colors. Actually, it's not letting me do it. I think I have to start with this, draw my selection, and then I believe it lets me do that. Well, it's not letting me do it now. I'm not sure what I did. It was earlier. I did it. It was just fine. Okay, guess what? It turns out it's the pen tool that doesn't allow you to fill the selection, but all your shape tools do. Okay, so I showed you how to convert this shape into a selection by the right click. Make selection. Let's say I want to add this as a custom shape. I can actually save this by name. I can give it a name, and then I've got that shape. Now, am I going to want that shape? No. But if I come up with a really cool shape, I can save it, and then I can use that later. So that's basically the pen tool. One other thing I should point out is one of the uses of the pen tool I use is for making a complex selection. So let me show you real briefly how I might do that. Okay, I hid that layer. I want to maybe make a picture, and I want to have, I want to take this picture right here, and I want to cut out LaMarcus Aldridge out of this painting. I might use the pen tool to create the selection. So I use the pen tool to get this image, and then I can convert it to a selection, and then I can cut that out. So I click on here, I get the pen tool, and I could go in on my picture, zoom in, and I could just go point by point, going around. If I want to have curved lines, I can just click and drag and create some kind of a bit of a curved line as I go around. And I can do the same thing on these selections here. I should probably zoom in a little bit more for you to see how we're doing that. And so if you need to get an exact line, the pen tool can do it like no other tool can. And so you use your eyes, you click, you create some handles, and you can create inner curves, outer curves. And it even allows you to get nice big kind of nice round curve like that. And then if your handles are too big, you get Alt, and then you can adjust the handles. You can pull them in, get rid of them, move them around. And you just keep going around, and eventually when you're done, you just convert that to a selection, and then you can use it to cut out this picture or cut out the remaining details that you have on there. By the way, did you see what I just did there? I right-clicked, and I can delete that path, or I can continue on here. And so I can just keep going around, holding down Alt to get my handles onto a picture. And we can adjust it as we go. I can undo my points by Control, Alt, Z, and it keeps undoing the previous points you were doing. When you are done creating that selection using the pen tool, oops. So you see how round LaMarcus Aldridge's head is? I can try to get that entire curve using those handles. By the way, I'm using space bar to move that around. Now, notice this curve comes in too sharp, so I'm actually going to have to adjust this one. And it's kind of a combination of pulling out and away, combination of each of these. And you can get just almost a perfect path going around. See how I'm just going around here. So anyway, it's nice because visually I can tell where his nose is, but other tools are really difficult to do that. Whereas with my eye, I can sort of get the detail I need. Okay, I've since gone around. I'm ready to close my shape. So I just get into here, and I see how it turns into that little circle. I click. I have my path now, and I want to zoom out a little bit. So I'm going to zoom out. And there's my selection. And so what I can do now is I can get back to my pen tool, right-click, and make it a selection. And of course, I wouldn't want to feather that. I might want to feather it maybe with like 1 pixel. And now what I can do is I can use it to cut out LaMarcus Aldridge here. So, or I can copy. So I copy here, File New, click OK, I paste, there he is. Okay. Now, of course, I missed part of the inside of his leg, but the pen tool allowed me to get a very complex shape. And as long as I'm patient, I can use that particular tool. So on the next part of the tutorial, what I want to cover is the rest of the tools, the type tools, and in particular, the various shape tools that we have.